1984. A critical monograph on the epistemology of power. George Orwell's 1984, published in 1949, stands not merely as a dystopian novel, but as a prophetic anti-utopia and a definitive epistemological warning regarding the teleology of power. Written in the shadow of Stalinism, Nazism, and the nascent Cold War, the text transcends historical allegory to investigate the psychological and linguistic structures necessary for perpetual, absolute dominance. The novel's enduring force lies in its chilling commitment to the idea that absolute power can successfully destroy objective reality itself. The structural integrity and narrative architecture. The novel's architecture is classically tragic, divided into three distinct phases mirroring the protagonist's journey from consciousness to annihilation. Part 1. Exposition and the dystopian thesis. Part 1 meticulously establishes the thesis, the totalitarian supremacy of Ingsoc, English socialism. The narrative technique relies on the limited, yet defective, consciousness of Winston Smith. We are introduced to the apparatus of control, the omnipresent telescreen, the rigid party hierarchy, the three core ministries, and the constant threat of the thought police. This segment functions as an objective-subjective hybrid, detailing the external machinery of the state while filtering the effect of that machinery through Winston's isolated, paranoid mind. The atmosphere is one of pervasive psychological terror, where the boundaries between public duty and private thought have entirely dissolved. Part 2. Complication and the rebellion's antithesis. Part 2 introduces the antithesis, the attempt to reclaim individuality and objective truth. This section is driven by two key events: the passionate, forbidden affair with Julia and the intellectual deception orchestrated by O'Brien. The rebellion is immediately characterized by its flawed foundation, the faith placed in the apolitical proles and the blind trust placed in O'Brien. The introduction of Goldstein's The Theory and Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism serves a dual narrative function. It provides the reader with the rational, macropolitical theory behind the state's perpetual war economy, and simultaneously acts as the bait that confirms Winston's guilt in the eyes of the party. This structural movement confirms that the rebellion was never genuinely independent, but was monitored and anticipated from its inception. Part 3. Catastrophe and synthesis of submission. Part 3 delivers the catastrophe, chronicling Winston's deconstruction within the Ministry of Love. The section rejects all hope, culminating in the synthesis, the complete acceptance of the party's reality. The narrative focus shifts from external action to internal, philosophical torture, transforming the setting into a literal chamber of metaphysical re-education. 2. The totalitarian machine, mechanisms of epistemological control. The novel's genius lies in its detailed illustration of how a regime sustains power not just through force, but through the systematic dismantling of consciousness. A. Linguistic nihilism and newspeak. Newspeak is the ultimate tool of control, demonstrating Orwell's adherence to the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, linguistic determinism. The language is designed for two purposes: to narrow the range of thought by eliminating abstract, heretical concepts, e.g., words for freedom or justice, and to make thought crime literally unthinkable in the long term. This project reduces language to its most basic functional unit, preventing the formation of complex, rebellious ideas. It is an act of linguistic nihilism, ensuring that the very tools needed for critical thought are systematically eradicated. B. Doublethink and the destruction of objective reality. The concept of doublethink is the operational philosophy of Ingsoc. It is the power to hold two contradictory beliefs simultaneously and accept both as true, while believing that one is false and forgetting that the contradiction exists. This is not simple hypocrisy. It is a forced, chronic schizophrenia necessary for survival. It proves that the party demands not just obedience, but absolute intellectual surrender. The slogans "war is peace," "freedom is slavery," "ignorance is strength" are the mantras of this philosophical servitude. By controlling the past, historical revisionism, and the present doublethink, the party guarantees the ontological primacy of its narrative. C. The emotional economy and the slogan of hate. The party rigidly controls the emotional economy of the populace. All instinctual energies, aggression, fear, and desire are funneled and managed. Abolition of eroticism. Sexual desire is pathologized and suppressed to prevent individual loyalty, ensuring that all deep-seated fervor is transferred to Big Brother. The act of sex is ideally performed as a duty to the party. Channeling aggression. Aggression is rigidly channeled into controlled outbursts like the 2 minutes hate and hate week, targeting external, shifting enemies, Goldstein, Eurasia, or Eastasia. This constant, managed hostility prevents the populace from recognizing the true enemy, the inner party itself. 3. The character dichotomy. The inquisitor and the failed subject. The narrative is driven by the relationship between the inquiring subject, Winston, and his ultimate philosophical adversary, O'Brien, a dynamic that represents the final stage of total submission. Winston Smith, the failed historian. Winston is the defective narrator, a man who remembers the past inaccurately but feels the instinctual need for objective truth. His flaw is not political cowardice, but intellectual naivety. He attempts to fight an all-powerful system using tools the system has already accounted for: memory, clandestine romance, and a sense of shared human decency. His tragedy is his realization that the party's power is not a means to an end, like utopian ideology, but is the end in itself. O'Brien, the philosophical inquisitor. O'Brien is not merely a torturer. He is the embodiment of the party's intellect and the philosophical architect of Winston's destruction. He is highly educated, fully aware of the hypocrisy of the system, and consciously chooses to embrace it. His role is to articulate the terrifying truth. Power is not about making people do things, but about making people believe things. He systematically dismantles Winston's reality by forcing him to look out the window and deny the existence of his own fingers. O'Brien's character ensures the climax is a philosophical confrontation, not a physical one. Julia, the pragmatic rebel. Julia represents a crucial counterpoint. Her rebellion is purely personal and pragmatic, confined to the realm of the body and immediate pleasure. She is unconcerned with history, ideology, or newspeak. She simply wants to circumvent the rules for personal gratification. She is the untheoretical subject. Her pragmatism offers a momentary vitality, but ultimately provides no sustained, structural opposition to the party's totalizing theory. 4. The climax, the ministry of love and ultimate victory. The final section is the novel's most disturbing passage, detailing the irreversible process of psychological breaking. The teleology of power. The ministry of love is the site where the party's philosophical victory is secured. O'Brien's dialogue establishes the frightening teleology of the Ingsoc state. Power is not a means, it is an end. There is no underlying ideology beyond the retention of control. The future is a boot stomping on a human face forever. Reality exists only within the party's collective mind. This doctrine rejects all previous political theory, asserting that the state's survival relies only on the maintenance of suffering and absolute psychological obedience. Room 101. The annihilation of the self. Room 101 functions as the personalized nadir of the totalitarian process. Its mechanism, confronting the victim with their worst fear, is designed to force the ultimate psychological betrayal. Winston's scream, "Do it to Julia, not me," is the moment of definitive self-annihilation. By sacrificing the person he loves most to save his own physical shell, Winston severs his last link to independent moral agency and confirms the party's absolute power over his instinctual self. The synthesis of love. The novel concludes not with Winston's physical death, but with his spiritual conversion. His final thought, "He loved Big Brother," signifies the final, tragic synthesis. The party has successfully implanted its desire into the deepest recesses of the subject's consciousness. The struggle for freedom is not externalized. It is a lost battle within the mind itself. V. Critical legacy and enduring relevance. 1984's impact on literature and political discourse is immeasurable. It popularized terms like Orwellian, thought crime, and Big Brother, which have become essential vocabulary for critiquing authoritarianism and surveillance. The novel remains profoundly relevant in the 21st century. Linguistic erosion, the manipulation of political language, and the use of terms like alternative facts echo the principles of newspeak and doublethink. Surveillance capitalism. The fusion of total state surveillance with advanced technology mirrors the ubiquitous scrutiny of the telescreen, now realized through digital means. Historical amnesia. The cultural trend toward neglecting or selectively revising history validates Orwell's insight into the fragility of collective memory. 1984 is ultimately a defense of liberal humanism and objective reality. It forces the reader to confront the terrifying notion that freedom is not merely the absence of coercion, but the conscious, constant choice to assert that fundamental truths, like the reality of the past or the simple equation that 2 + 2 = 4, are inviolable, regardless of the consequences. The novel's enduring power is its uncompromising refusal to offer a glimmer of hope, thereby making the final plea for intellectual vigilance all the more urgent.